morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckstuff. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about a time to remember. That is the title of the book by my guest today, author Terry Nelson, and she has written a beautiful book that talks about Christmases. Now, Christmas is a special time of year, not only for she and her family, but for me as well. I know that I love Christmas. It not only reminds me of all of the laughter and the fun and the joy of being around family, but as the quote says, Jesus is the reason for the season. And what a wonderful time for us to share our faith and to talk about that day that changed the rest of history. So you know what I'm going to tell you. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Terry. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Dr. Angela.
I'm so glad that you're able to come on and talk about your book. Thanks. So before we get started, I always like to ask my guests, like, who are you? So many times we read our bios and it gives all of this very technical information about who we are, and that's good. Don't get me wrong. That's good too. But my question to you is who is Terry?
Well, I'm just a common woman, but I love God and I love my family outrageously. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, was raised in a typical, no, it's not typical, it wasn't typical, but a wonderful Southern family of 6 children raised by my parents, Francis and Charles Grisham, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. As life went on, my dad became a minister. He was a United Pentecostal minister, and we were raised in a very strong, faith-based, high emphasis on family values home. And as I grew older and married, I married, my husband's name was Lowell Bass, my first husband, and we were very active in church, both of us, all of our lives, and we became church planters. And in our adulthood, we moved to Colorado for the express purpose of planting a church. We planted our first church in La Junta, Colorado, and it was more like a foreign mission than a home mission, but we called it home missions then. We loaded up our trailer with our 2 kids, headed to Colorado with everything we owned without 1 penny's financial backing. We had some direction earlier that I won't cover in this interview, but that we had these 2 little towns targeted in southern Colorado, La Junta and Rocky Ford. We went there, settled with our children who were ages 5 and 8 as we arrived in La Junta, Colorado, and we did establish our church there in La Junta. After staying there for 9 years, we moved to Greeley, Colorado, where we planted another church. And our life was totally focused on God, on these little home mission works that we started in our family. But we did hit some troubled water, which I won't express all of those feelings and all of that information now, but it wasn't just a Cinderella story. I mean, we hit some very monumental issues in our life. However, we hung on to our faith and our family, even when it looked like there was no way we could. So anyway, my first husband, Lowell, passed away about 3 years ago, and we had not made it to 50 years of marriage. We'd made it to 48. But my children, yes, ma'am?
No, I was saying, oh, wow, to make it to 48. And, I mean, that is still
yes. Oh,
Such
yeah.
a blessing. Oh, my goodness. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm Angela, I'm 70 years old, and I still work full-time as an RN, which I have most of those years. But anyway, I wanted to do something. The reason I wrote the book is that I wanted to do something for my children to honor their father and to honor all of these years so they wouldn't feel like everything had ended just because he had passed away of cancer.
Right.
So I wrote the book for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I had not even the slightest intention of selling the book. It was the publisher that I chose that encouraged me to go ahead and maybe look at marketing it. And I would suppose that the people who would be interested in this book of these highlighting these 50 Christmases would be people fighting to preserve their family, or
right.
people who just totally embrace family values in their everyday life, church workers, church leaders, foster parents, support group folks. It just shows what can be done when a family refuses to give up. And it shows many simple pleasures, things that everyone can do. And I chose Christmas to highlight this whole idea of holding the family together, because Christmas times you focus on what's happened that year and you celebrate what you have. Sometimes you're mourning in that candlelight, but you regroup, gather your family around you and say, this is what we did, this is what God did, and this Christmas, this is what we are going to do. We're going to celebrate our traditions. We're going to go ahead and do, even on those years that it was hard to do.
Right.
And that's how it started. I intended to start and write a record for my children, include photos to support what I was writing, and it just grew into something else. So that's the why, and the audience that it would appeal.
Right. So my first question for you is how did you come up with the title, A Time to Remember?
Well, this is a day and time that there's some negative connotation to looking back and don't live in the past, and I knew that, but I also remembered in Scripture that it says there is a time to remember. And I have this deep-seated belief and feeling that if someone can make a clear path to where they're going, they really need to know where they've been and how they got to this point. And I do still feel there's a great value in recounting all of the things that God has done. There's an old hymn that says, count your blessings, name them one by one. Well, I did that in this book. And also, not only what God has done, but in encouraging my children to look at the past and look at our dark days and look at our bright days and look at all the days, all the in-between days, all the Tuesdays, that we look at what we have done also. Some of those things we can be very proud of if it is in a negative light. We also think, well, that's where I don't want to go again. Thank God I'm out of that. This is how we came out of that. And those are just some of the thoughts that drove this to be called A Time to Remember, because I thought there was so much value in the people, the times, the struggle. There's so much value that needs to be preserved. That's why.
Absolutely. I have to agree with you. I think that on a certain level, so many of our members of our listening audience agree with you. They're nodding their heads saying, yes, I know that I personally was raised in a very civic-minded family. My mother and father both were very big on making sure we have been blessed with a lot, and we understood that a lot is expected of us because of that blessing, and that you have to give back, and each one teach one, and share, and be great, and be kind, and remember that family is important. That, and hopefully I'm not offending anyone when I say that we understood that it was God and family and country, and those things are important. And there are some things that you get away from, but those things are the things that really are the fabric of who we are. And
our moorings.
Don't toss those things out. But those things are really wonderful. Christmas can look different for each generation, because there's going to be different things that are invented and around, and new people will be born to the family and all of that. But there's nothing like that beautiful traditional Christmas for your family. However that looks, whatever that looks like or sounds like, I know that it's really special to me as well. So I hear you. It really and truly does make a difference. Now, it's almost time for us to go to break. We have about a minute or so left, but I wanted to ask you about the publishing of your book. Not the process as far as choosing the company, but after you had done all of the writing and it was finally finished, how did you feel in that moment when your published book was in your hand?
It was one of the most satisfying things that has ever happened to me. I felt like, all right, I have this gift that is going to bless a lot of people. It's going to bless my family. It's going to preserve what happened. And it was just the most satisfying feeling. I, even at that moment, did not care truly about selling the book, but I thought it's available. It is a gift that I can give, and I have given away more of them than I have sold. I'll tell you right now that it was a wonderful feeling. Absolutely unprecedented for me. I have done a lot of speaking and sharing and have been in ministry all of my life, but I had not had that happen. It's a glorious feeling, really.
Mm-hmm. It really, really is. And you do have such in sharing about the Christmas holiday and the love and all of that, I think people are able to receive it for the labor of love that it is. It's nothing like giving someone something that you yourself have created. And a book is the same as jam or jellies, let's say, or that, crochet sweater or quilted quilt.
Exactly.
A quilt that has been made, it's a wonderful thing to be able to give. I love it. Now, before we go to break, if you would please, Terry, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book, where can we pick up a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of the book is A Time to Remember. Reflections of 50 Christmases. I am available on Facebook at Terry Bass Nelson. That's my Facebook page. The book is available on Barnes & Noble, from Barnes & Noble, as well as Amazon, of course, Amazon. And my web page is terrybassnelson.com. I will say, if you want the book, the most direct and inexpensive way to get it is from me at Terry Bass Nelson, Post Office Box 336492, Greeley, Colorado 80633. That's the least expensive way. It's rather high priced on those other sources, but it is available, like I said, through Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Gotcha. All righty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Anne, Camilla, William, and Fred. The four in the Humvee are on a perilous journey, halfway across the country to a tent city near the Mississippi River, a long ways from Boston. Through each bend and turn, they meet some people in need and others who have evil in their souls. Four unlikely heroes in a Humvee on an unlikely trip. The recipe for a captivating story. Grab this book, EMP Casualty by Michael Kravitz.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for a Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Bucks-Chester. My guest today is Terry Bass Nelson, and she has written the book, A Time to Remember. We are talking about a beautiful thing that she wants to remember, and that is Christmas time, all of the beautiful Christmases that she has spent with friends and family, and the stories that go along with that. Now, you guys know that I absolutely love all things family and all things Christmas, so what a wonderful topic to be talking about today. Well, Terry, I want to ask you, and we kind of touched on it a little bit before we went to break, but your journey of publishing your book. I don't think people realize that it doesn't just stop with you've typed or written your last word and great, I have this book. There's a process. There's a journey that goes on there. Can you tell us about yours?
Well, I sought out several companies, some of them in my locally here in my city of Greeley, Colorado, and the pictures were important to me. My book, I think, probably has 2,000 pictures in it. And that was a big, heavy piece of it. I just started out by writing it. I wrote it in freehand. Just, that's my personality, and I felt like that made it easier for me to incorporate my own personality into it. When I had chosen, by the time I was finished writing, I had chosen the publishing company, and we had come up with a price, and I knew that it was pricier than I had planned on, but they were the company that would do it my way. If I'm going to be honest, I'm not a real techie person, so I was able to get it all done in Word processor and all of that. I had it all ready to go, and they were willing to just let me do it my way. They didn't make a big deal out of the fact that I was probably doing things in a kind of a cumbersome way. They just let me do it. You know, sometimes they would try to redirect me. They didn't have too much luck with that. I at least had it on the word processor. And I had my pictures just kind of, I did get each year of pictures into a file, and this is just the nuts and bolts pieces of it, Angela. I don't know if that was what you were wanting, but I'm just saying to folks that are out there listening, you could do this. You could absolutely do this. These people don't make you feel like you're some sort of less than human person because you're not up with everything, because you don't know everything they know about everything. So they helped me. They let me do it. Like I said, it was far pricier than I had anticipated, but I thought that's not going to matter 50 years from now. My kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids and generations will have this. This is important enough to me that I'm going to do it. And I just made that decision. And then from that point, they had so many people in the company, at each stage of the production that would take me over. I kind of felt sorry for them one by one as they had to go through this. But they did, and they were good about it, and they were very respectful, and they got it done. And it took, I think it took around 2 to 3 months. Of course, I already had the book. I had all of the narrative done. I had had the narrative done for several months. The pictures were the most cumbersome and the most time-consuming. But anyway, once I had the material together, it took between 2 and 3 months, and I was shocked that when I sent my last proofreading in, when I released it, they had released that book on Barnes & Noble the next day, or Amazon, both of them, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked because I thought it would be some big ordeal, and it's not that difficult. It's just persistence that you have to have to.
I think that you have really helped with sharing, because people do need to know that there is a company out there that is willing to understand how you function and how you work, and they can make that work within the confines of how they do business. And that really
Yes.
truly is important. For the person who wants something different, who, like you said, may be a little more techie than you are, perhaps there's a company that's for them as well. So we each find the one that works best for them. I love it. Now, even though we are talking about Christmas, and we assume that everyone knows exactly what we mean when we say it's Christmas, but can you tell us in your own words, what does Christmas mean to you?
Well, Christmas is absolutely Jesus, and that's one of the reasons that I chose this as my focal point, for me to speak to my world and the world about the most important thing that there is in life. Next to Jesus, it's family. Christmas embraces all of that to me. This is also, taking a little side trail, this is Americana, this book. It shows how things have changed through the years, how things are celebrated, traditions. It embraces everything. Food, music, expensive things, cheap stuff, but it's all Americana and the way we have embraced Christmas, and we still are celebrating it each year. And that Christmas was a perfect focal point, or not focal point, reference point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to do. It's easy to do from that vantage.
Right. Now, there may be someone who's saying, well, I get you. Christmas is supposed to be, jingle bells and smiles and everyone is all happy and fuzzy. But I have some sad stories, let's say, that Christmas isn't a happy time. One of the things that you talk about in your book is that there are some sad Christmases and there are some happy Christmases. Can you tell us a little? I know we usually want the good news first, but I'm going to ask for the bad. I'm going to say, can you tell us about some of the sadder Christmases first?
Well, Angela, after all of the years of wonderful Christmases and kind of a sheltered life in many ways, we found ourselves at Christmas time in 1991 with me taking my children, one in the 3rd grade, one in high school, and one in college. We had to travel to another state, and we had our Christmas in a prison visiting room. We had our Christmas dinner at a truck stop.
Yeah.
Now, the book does end up with us having our Christmas in Florence, Italy. But after my husband's death, but I'm just saying, it wasn't just the sweet little cookies and like you say, the jingle bells. Mm-hmm. I mean, we took it right on through that. My husband spent the better part of 9 years in prison.
Okay.
And here we were the preacher's family that had celebrated for people and with people in a very positive light. We had to prove during those years that Jesus was still real to us and that we still loved each other and we could still have fun and that we were not going to give up on our family, no matter what it looked like. And this book does, it's not a tabloid. It doesn't go into ugly details at all. Not at all. But it just shows, okay, were we going to give up on our Christmas? No way. We went through those years very much a solid front. We're going to stick with this. This is what we said we believed. We have had some failure here, but does that mean that our core values go by the wayside? No, not at all.
Right.
And you know what? Through this book, if you really get it, we pull through those years. My husband came out, got a high-paying job, never missed a beat beyond that until he died of cancer in 2016, and our family is intact.
Right. You know, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because unfortunately we do have a lot of families that have to go through that as well. And they do wish that that particular Christmas had never happened in that way.
Oh, yeah.
But learning to see that, hey, what shining bit can we glean from that? And that is, we were still together as a family. It may not be the ideal situation, but we still had all heads accounted for, and you were able to be together in some form or fashion. I've experienced Christmas after the passing of a loved one, and I think in those moments you would do anything to have that person back with you. So different, but it could be so much more. Thank you for reminding everyone that needed to hear that. Now, before we go to break, is there any particular Christmas that comes to mind that is one of your happiest Christmases?
Yes. 2008, right here where I'm talking to you from, we had a glorious Christmas. My parents were still living and visited here from, actually at that time they were living in Tennessee. So under the roof, we had 4 generations. We had 2 new babies that year. We had a visit from my brother from Indiana that was with us. This was before my husband had gotten the cancer. We just had this wonderful Christmas. My brother from Indiana came, brought his harmonica. We played Mariah Carey, and he accompanied her on this harmonica. And we just had a rip-roaring time. All I Want for Christmas Is You, because everyone was there. And we had 2 new babies and 4 generations there celebrating all that God had done. And it was just kind of like, all right, we're all still standing.
Right?
That was actually a few years after the horrible times that I mentioned before. But it was just a glorious, glorious time.
I think that's one of the reasons why I love Christmas as well. Just the fact that everyone is able to be home, and because our parents and our grandparents, and like you said, even our great-grandparents, were just so big on family. We all understood that Christmas was the holiday that we would all be together. I love how, God bless my in-laws. They are such cool folks, and I say that because Thanksgiving would always be, if you're married or you're engaged, you spent Thanksgiving with the other person's family, and Christmas was at work. So I have to agree with you. It's nothing like having all of those generations together, and it's just nice. You know, it's just a nice fuzzy feeling. So I love it. Well, Terry, it is almost time for us to take one of our last breaks for the show. Could you remind everyone, please, before we go, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of the book is A Time to Remember. I'm Terry Bass Nelson. You can stay in contact with me at Terry Bass Nelson on Facebook. love to hear from you on there. The book is available through Amazon or Barnes & Noble. The most economical way to get a copy of the book is just contact me at Terry Bass Nelson, Post Office Box 336492, Greeley, Colorado 80633. I love to hear from you.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butch-Tester. My guest today is Terry Bass Nelson, and she has written the book, A Time to Remember. That's right, folks. We are talking about Christmas time, and I think that so many people have such wonderful memories of Christmas. I know that I do, and I still look forward to Christmas each and every year. The time that we can spend with family, the time that we can remember celebrating all that our Lord and Savior has done for us. For this is the time we celebrate His birth, and that is an amazing time of year. So, Terry, I want to ask you this question. So many people come on the show, and many are authors, and someone may be saying, okay, it's another book on Christmas. So what makes your book so unique?
Well, it's all real. And it's everyday experiences, brilliant celebrations, the thoughts and feelings of everyday people. And I just absolutely know what people are going through out there. Some people are wondering, why do this? I'm not going to do this year. It's not worth it. This book will point out to you how traditions, the stuff you do, is so much more important than you might think it is. The everyday person, the mom that's getting up and going to work and arranging, packing lunches before she goes and can't afford this and maybe gathering up lunchmen. These are the people. And as Ma Jode said in The Grapes of Wrath, we're the people that live. We're the people. And this is a book about the people, the people that are fighting the good fight, that are trying to make a difference, just wondering, how can I hold my family together? How can I even make them want to be with me? How can I make this a rich experience for their life? And I just think this is reality. These are the real struggles that people go through and the real joy that people can experience through celebrating. Celebrating is so important. And I know in the Bible, when they came to a milestone or they wanted to honor God for something He had done for them, and sometimes something they had done for Him, they built an altar. Well, I would like to think in the life of a Christian that each Christmas we can build an altar. We can celebrate what God has done and celebrate how far we've come, how we've survived that year. And it glorifies God, but it also glorifies the biblical principles of marriage, family, commitment, and tenacity. I don't know any other way to say it. Some people, I'll just say it, some people might find this very mundane, might think, well, so what, but the people that live, you'll get it. It's kind of like, all right, let's do this. This is what we do.
Right.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to be right here with this tradition because it honors God, it honors our family, it entertains our babies, simple things like that. So that might be quite simplistic, Angela, but that's the core of it. We're the people that live.
It's so funny that you say it might be simple, but I think when we really look back on our lives, it is the simple things that really and truly do bring us such joy. And I think that we have to live a little, and I literally mean that we need to become many times a little older in our age to appreciate the simple joy. that life brings to us. Now don't get me wrong. I appreciated things when I was 20, but I also probably didn't appreciate some things as much as I could have.
Right.
But now that I'm older, you appreciate things different. I'm a cancer survivor. I appreciate things differently. My father has passed away. I appreciate things differently. Life, like you said, has started to happen. We're out here living life, and you learn to appreciate those moments where family are all together. And you can do those things that honor your faith and your family. I love it. Well, Terry Bass Milton, thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today. I have enjoyed my time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela.
And listeners, thank you as well for tuning in and spending your morning here with me. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.